Hello, this is Deborah Dachinger, Dare to Dream radio show, and thank you so much for joining us. It's great to be here with y'all, and what a pleasure it is for me, for sure, because this is, of course, an important subject for me. And I love this song, Joyful Sound. What a great space to be in. So I am excited about today's subject because, you know, there's so many different pieces to creating our dreams come true, to moving ahead, to intentions and goals. That's the beauty of this. And something I love, an idea that I love is if you have a cube, and the cube is a subject, a person, a situation, you take a look at the cube, and the cube moves a lot of different ways, doesn't it? You can look at it from many angles. And thus it is with subjects. So on the subject of success and goals and dreams come true, it's the same also that we have different perspectives. And that's why I always have so many inspirations to share with you. There's a lot to be inspired about. So today's subject is really about flexibility. And flexibility, not so much like a yoga class, but it's about an internal sense of flexibility, something that is a really great quality for all of us to use business and professional and personal in order to get ahead. Interesting statistic, the Menninger Institute in Kansas City did a study because they wanted to understand what's the most important qualities in order for someone to feel a sense of success and happiness, and in order for them to create it. So Menninger Institute is doing a study, what kind of qualities do we need for success and happiness? What do you think it is? Oh, that's right, it's the subject of the day. It's flexibility. It's to be flexible, to move with, to flow. Amazing, right? Interesting, I find. And let's pick another song here. Yes. So, yeah, it is interesting because if somebody wants to develop success and happiness, they need to learn to be flexible. Well, if you're not, the good news is now you know what to do. Think about what not being flexible means. Not being flexible is somebody who's rigid, somebody who's automatic, predictable, right? They do the same thing all the time, and even if the situation starts to rock and roll and change, they're like, darn it, I'm going to stick to this. But the problem is when you stick to things, they often don't work anymore. You got to let go. Being not flexible also means being unwilling, and to be inflexible means to not adapt. Okay, so now we know what that looks like. So flexibility, I liken to trees. Let's just think about trees in a storm. You've all seen trees in a storm at some point in your life. Maybe you live in hurricanes or other places where some damage can be done. On every coast I've lived, I've seen amazing winds do amazing things. Well, a tree that is really static doesn't do well because it doesn't bend, and usually it ends up either being torn apart or tearing other things apart in its wake, or creating a lot of damage and breaking, basically. But if you've ever seen bamboo, it's pretty much miraculous because bamboo flows with. It's very flexible. And bamboo does not create destruction. In fact, it goes with whatever's going on, and then when it's done, it rights itself, and it's usually still perfect. It's usually still intact. It's usually undisturbed. So think about that vision, like which do you choose to be? Because in life, there are a lot of storms. Now, there are also a lot of wonderful things, but one thing we can count on all the time is change. More than ever today, we're living in a world, we all know, we can agree on this, time is sped up. Oh, has it not? And every year it speeds up more and gets faster and quicker. And what happens with that is because technology so rapidly changes, the way of doing business so rapidly changes, the way of having a relationship changes. There's tons of change in the world. Something happens and boom, everything changes around it. So we live in a time where life and change have sped up at a faster and increasing rate, and it forces us sometimes to scrap our very best plans, the very best laid plans. Now, if you're rigid in keeping them, it'll probably be to your demise or your business's demise. But if you can be flexible, you can create new ways of thinking and new courses of action that will keep you going and flowing. You can navigate the starting, the stopping, the unpredictable nature of life. Change often causes a lot of stress for people. I've seen this before in places where I've worked, and it's been so funny where somebody even creates a new process. It's like, everybody's freaking out. They can't even deal with the idea of the process. So people who are fixed and rigid don't do well with that because they have such a strong opinion of how things should be. Don't be a shooter. Don't shit all over everything. You want to move into a more compliant, more conciliatory experience in your life. And in order to stay flexible, ask yourself these questions as you go along. One of the questions is, does this work? You take a look at your model of how you're doing something right now and ask yourself, does this work? Yes, no. That's pretty clear. Maybe sometimes, maybe there's certain things to keep about it. Is it achieving? Second question, is it achieving the end result desired? So does it work? And is it achieving the end result desired? Well, you have a goal or a dream. Is it creating it? Yes, no. Third question, is this the best course of action? Great question. Well, you may be saying, well, how do I know if it's right or wrong? How do I know if it is the best course of action? Well, the way to decide the best course of action is by the results netted. Whatever you net, whatever is affected in accomplishing, achieving this particular goal, you can tell, is this the best course of action or not? And the fourth one is knowing what I know today. Is there anything I'm doing that if I had to do over again, I would not get into? Knowing what I know today, if I got the chance to do it over again, is this something I would omit? Now, if you say, hell yeah, hell to the yes, I would let this go so fast, I would never do this again, this didn't really work out for me, then I'm going to make a suggestion, a strong suggestion, that you very quickly get out of that particular thing ASAP, if not immediately. Get out of it, because what you're doing is you're just going into a dead end. And what you want to do is, once you get out of it, is rechannel. So channel your resources and energies to a better place, a better path for better results. You'll net more results. If you're answering these questions, and at the end you have your answers, you'll know how to change your path. You'll know what next to do. Remaining flexible means to be open. It means to be alert to new ideas, new information, and acknowledge that this information can help you in your life and in your business and your achievement of goals. Be honest with yourself and with others. Now, here's another piece of it. Being flexible means being honest. Have you ever come up in a situation where something happened and you have to either atone for what happened or pretend it didn't? Like, I don't know, kind of like your kid. I think he did it, or I don't know what happened. But you really do know what happened. All I can tell you is every time I get to that place, and I'm certainly like the worst of you because I would rather lie. I would always rather lie because I can't bear the thought sometimes. But what I know in my heart every time I get there is I'm going to prolong something. And that immediately gets me on the right path. I'm going to prolong it. It's not right. And I want to be right with myself, with God, with energy, with other people. And I immediately put myself on the path of honesty. So I always hit the bump of, don't tell nothing. And then I pretty quickly move into tell it all, because it's so much better. It's so much easier. It's a real grace, actually, because you get through stuff so quickly. So I don't want to burden myself with 80% of my own energy. I'd rather free it up immediately. So I readily tell somebody I made a mistake or I was wrong. Do that. Being honest means being flexible. You'll get through quicker to your goals. Once we admit that we've taken the wrong course, then you can flow into a better, much more correct course for you. Now, here's an example. Can you imagine, and I hope you can, a political landscape where politicians step up and say, I was wrong, I made a mistake, I did the wrong thing? Can you imagine being led by leaders like this? Oh, I would love this, so I imagine it. But what we live with right now is national politicians who pretend otherwise. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. No, that wasn't me. That didn't happen. She's not mine. That's not it. This never went down. And we all watch as they waste our time, our resources, and our energy carrying on until how much percent of the time? Almost 100. It comes out because of the world we live in today. I don't think it can sustain that kind of lack of integrity. It all comes out that they didn't take responsibility. They didn't admit their mistakes. We all suffer for it in their efforts to cover it up. They're the prime example of things we do every day in our life. So remember that truth is the best path to take. And along those lines, it's also okay to say to somebody, I've changed my mind. Yes, it is. Oh, yes, it is. I'm going to tell you that because you can review a previous decision and make a new decision. You know, that may not be working so well for me, that person, that situation, however that's set up. You get to be real, you get to be courageous, and you get to be flexible enough to change your mind where you're headed midstream. Now, of course, if you have some kind of contract, talk to your lawyer first before following that advice. But if you're a free agent, it's perfectly okay to reevaluate your goals and objectives about how you're choosing to get there. Recognize and embrace change as it enters your life. It's really empowering. Napoleon Hill said, within every setback or obstacle, there lies the seed of an equal or greater opportunity. You can achieve your best success by doing things differently than how you'd initially planned to execute them. And the last thing is stay alert for synchronicity. One of the ways when we're flexible is that information can come into us and into our lives. So allow the universe to speak, allow the universe to assist. I recently had something really interesting on a small level, but I love synchronicity. Last week on this radio show, 2 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, I did an opening, and I talked about people who had had a really tough time getting to their dreams, but once they got there, it was spectacular. And I spoke about an author and her book. It took her 5.5 years after she wrote it. 60 rejections, my God. And the 61st person, agent, said, yes, we'll take your book. All right, that's several weeks ago. So I am on vacation this past weekend. I'm at the pool, and we are at the pool, and we happened to meet a really cool couple that we got along great with. Well, this woman in the couple, you could not tear her away from her book. And I think it took the second or the third day before she said to me, you have got to get this book. This book is amazing. And I looked at the cover and I looked away, and just like one of those feelings, and I looked back and went, that's the book I was talking about on air. It's called The Help. It's by Catherine Stockett. Oh my God, that's the book I was talking about. That's crazy. That's synchronistic. And I told her the story, and she said to me, well, you know, it's a national bestseller now, and it's so big they're making a movie out of it. So, well, now I know the next book I'm going to read, because I'm a voracious reader, so I'm always looking for my next book. Now I have my next book, and we'll see where that will lead me to. Maybe she'll be on this show. One never knows. I love synchronicity, so be open to that and open to where it will lead you in your life. Robert Collier wrote, make every thought, every fact that comes into your mind pay you a profit. Make it work and produce for you. Think of things not as they are, but as they may be. Don't merely dream, but create. Dare to dream. I'm Deborah Dachinger, always a pleasure, and please go to my website, www.deborahdachinger.com, that's DACHINGER.com. There's tons there, lots of great interviews. Sign up for the newsletter. Also Facebook, Dare to Dream Radio and TV, and Twitter, Deb on the Radio, and YouTube, join my channel. It's a pleasure dreaming and achieving with all of you.